Hey, Spencer Smith, CrossFit Donelson here with lesson 21, managing multiple skill levels in class. Went with the first workout, 4-time, 15 muscle ups, 150 double unders, 12 muscle ups, 120 double unders, 9 muscle ups, 90 double unders. I'm going to be focusing on the muscle ups for this particular portion. I have got a progression over here. We've got going to start off on the low rings, but always start off with the low rings for the muscle ups. We're going to start off with our setup. I like to start in that seated or that kind of like under the ring kneeling position. We're focusing on the false grip and getting that position with the hands. Then we move from there into a seated pull, and you're obviously trying to pull the hands to the sternum or to the bottom of the sternum there, making sure we get that position. And another thing I always make sure my athletes do is that their hips and shoulders are rising together. You don't want people shooting their hips up too fast or rising just with their shoulders. So we focus on keeping the torso angle, just that slight lean back position as they pull towards the base of the sternum. And then the pull plus transition is next. So I find it helpful a lot of times to get the pull into the transition rather than just for the transition, but either way works. But we'll do pull to the base of the sternum followed by transition. And the focus here, of course, is on the aggressive sit-up. Once the hands reach the base of the sternum, sitting up, driving the shoulders forward through the rings as you open up the rings. And then, of course, kind of trading the shoulders forward for the hips back. And then from there, I'll move up to the top of the rings into a ring support position, making sure everybody can hold their weight up there. Nice active shoulders pushing down into the rings. Obviously, if we have athletes who are not able to hold themselves up into a ring support yet, then we can put their feet on the floor and give them a little bit of toe assist, or I can spot them. And then from there, we move into an eccentric muscle up. So I'll go backwards from the top, lower themselves down to the bottom of the support, pause in the bottom of the support position, and then see if we can move backwards into that pull, or backwards through the transition through the pull to the bottom. And then the full low ring muscle up is what I call it, toe spotted muscle up, whatever you want to call it. So from there you've got the pull, the transition, and then the press up and the dip to lock out. And the key thing there is, of course, making sure the athletes get their shoulders above their wrists in the pull before they try to transition. A lot of times athletes will try to transition too soon in that pull. So we make sure they're that slight lean back position, they're pulling and then transitioning over the rings. And then from there, if we still have athletes that are needing a bit more of a challenge, and of course we might have some athletes that will stay in this area and continue to work on this, but we'll have some of our more advanced athletes or intermediate athletes go into the jumping muscle ups on the rings, with some rings that are lowered down to about their head height from the ceiling. We'll focus on getting, starting in that lean back position, pulling, then jumping into that transition. Of course, we want to make sure that they are strong enough to hold themselves in that bottom of support before they ever jump into that. And usually if it's their first time doing it, I will spot them to make sure that they don't fall through the rings as well. And then from there, we move into the full muscle up, whether it's strict or kipping. Obviously, and we have a relatively small gym with, a lot of beginner athletes, so we don't have a lot of people that do muscle ups, but for the few that do, I always really want to focus on pushing down on the rings to initiate the pull, meaning you get that body lean back position, you're pushing or pulling down towards the base of the sternum still, as the gymnastics course like to say, push down to pull up. And then also keeping the abs braced throughout the movement. That's a big one that a lot of people will lose a lot of tension. We want to keep those abs braced through the pull. So that's my relatively long muscle up. Obviously, it depends on if it's a shorter class, then I feel like I'd have a lot of time to move through to coach this. But if, let's say I had less than 10 minutes to coach it, I would take out 2 or 3 of these steps and kind of make it a little bit quicker through there as well. For my 3 kind of avatar athletes, I've got my beginner right here, Mei Lin. She's been here for almost 3 months. She's got a little bit of an athletic background, but otherwise she's very new to CrossFit. So she'd be new to something like this with the muscle ups. This might be her second time doing it with us. I'm going to have her stick strictly to the low rings, obviously. She hasn't developed the strength yet to be able to hold herself in that support position yet. So she's going to be doing all this stuff primarily with her feet on the floor. So we'll lower the rings enough for her to be able to do that. And of course, going through all this stuff. For the intermediate, I've got a guy named Jacob. He's been here for 2 years, relatively good at body weight movements. He's working on his strength levels, but pretty good at things like pull-ups and dips and things like that. And I'll have him do his jumping muscle ups. He's really close. He's on the cusp of getting that muscle up. So I'll have him do those, maybe even a lower volume depending on how difficult those jumping muscle ups are for him. I might even lower the volume down to like 12.96 or 9.63 if necessary, but we'll kind of go with that scale. And then for Eric, who's been here for 5 years, and he came from another gym before that, so he's been doing CrossFit for like a little over 5, maybe 6 years. He has a couple of muscle ups, definitely not a lot of them, so he may need to scale the volume of the muscle ups back in the workout. But obviously as he improves, we want to be able to do more volume. But we'll just do good old-fashioned ring muscle ups. We will do focus on, again, the same kind of thing that here is pushing down, pulling deep before he transitions, making sure he's not trying to pull too early, kind of really pushing down on those rings so he doesn't pull too early. So yeah, that's my WOD, my progression, and my athletes. Thank you.